Hi, everyone. My name is Tina Dushar. I am a creative channeler and a divine healing practitioner. And today I am doing kind of a quick reading on Stephen Hawking. And the reason that I decided to do this very quickly was because tomorrow we are going to have a solar eclipse. And he brought some messages in, and because it's kind of a critical time and the energy has been really intense, at least it has been for me. So he's wanting to share some new, because he believes, he has said to me, I keep hearing from everyone and from him, this solar eclipse is all about new beginnings. So it's time to let go of the old, whatever you're hanging on to dramatically. It's time to let that go and to start heading in that new direction and putting your best foot forward. So with that, I'm going to pull up Stephen Hawking's soul contract, and we were going to go through that so you can get a sense of a little bit of background about Stephen and what he chose to experience in this lifetime and how that played out for him. We'll talk a little bit more about that. As always, I ask for 4 channeled messages from the celebrity or personality that I am channeling for these soul contracts. And then I will pull some oracle cards for the viewers for additional messages that Stephen would like to share with everyone. So let's get going. I'm going to annotate my mouse like I normally do. The first thing that I noticed when I looked at Stephen's chart is, I also want to mention about this picture. I picked this picture from Getty Images, and it is one with Nelson Mandela. And the reason I chose this is because Stephen always talked about being an atheist, and I thought this was kind of an interesting photo, but I loved all of the work and wonderful things that Stephen did. Just because he was an atheist doesn't mean he didn't have a spiritual connection. And we'll talk a little bit about why he was hanging on to that atheist kind of ideals from what I can see from his soul chart, and kind of give you an explanation as to that. But the first thing I noticed by looking at his chart, notice how has all of these double numbers in all of the different aspects. As I talk about in other sessions, we usually start with the physical triangle here, these 2 interlocking triangles, one being of the physical aspect and one being of the spiritual aspect. And I start off with the descriptions of the 3 aspects in the physical, which is our karma. That's our opportunities that will continually come to us throughout our life. And then our talents get activated. And those talents are here to not just overcome some of these obstacles and opportunities from the karma side. It also helps us to get to serve our goals, which is really what, as I have always said, gets us out of bed in the morning. Our dreams that we have, they can be very subconscious, but it's always something that is pushing us to move ahead in our lives. And everybody selects several of these in their chart. So we all have goals that we are working on. But like I said, usually you would see a more combination numbers, a blending of energies. And Stephen particularly picked kind of this very limited view of what he wanted to experience. So he didn't have a lot of numbers to draw off of. And what this can mean is it can make a person either feel very stuck in their life or have some issues that also create some stuckness. And that I do want to talk about could have been tied directly to his health issues. And if you don't know much about Stephen Hawking, he was a very famous theoretical physicist, a director of very widely known, all of these kind of intangible, abstract ideas, and very much revered here in the United States and across the world, wrote some books. I'm sure many of you are going to tuning in are like him, like I did. He was so wonderful. I used to watch a sitcom called The Big Bang Theory here in the US. And he several times was on that comedy show. And it was really wonderful to see this very well regarded, intelligent, so many things that he's accomplished in his life, just really being funny and laughing at himself and everyone else too. So it was really awesome to see. And so when I talk about stuckness, first we're going to talk about this physical karma of the number 4. And that 4 is all about duplication energy. And so it can really duplicate out. And when it's in a karmic aspect, you'll see primarily, as I've always mentioned in the videos, there's positive and negative connotations to all the numbers. I have a short introductory video about the soul contract and how I lay out all the numbers. If you're interested in that, I always put the link in the description box below. And this 4 is called a double number, and it's called barren to fruitful. And it's all about trusting in the flow of the universe. What do you believe about your self-worth? Do you believe that good things are meant for you? Do you believe in the flow of abundance to yourself? Or do you think things maybe aren't so abundant for you? So it can play out in a karmic aspect, as we see with his health, which he was diagnosed, I believe, around the age of 21 with ALS, which is a neurology, I think would be a good way to categorize it. A degeneration of the spinal cord and muscles, Lou Gehrigs disease. Although he was able to, they gave him not very long to live. And a lot of people with Lou Gehrigs disease don't live extremely long lives. And he died 3 years ago, which would have put him at age 76, which for being diagnosed so young, he lived quite a long time with this disease. And obviously he had to adapt all of the time as he continuously got worse and worse. And again, as we talk about that karmic duplication energy, you can see where that was something either he chose or was just part of the manifestation. We all have different manifestations that can play out with these numbers. And some of that has to do with the other numbers as well, and the beliefs that we take on. So the numbers send us the vibrations of the energies, such as that duplication or creativity. But then we really are the ones that manifest the reality out of those energies. And with the 4s, again, we talked about having a mistrust in the flow. And when I looked at his family history, there was a lot of, because with the mistrust of flow, you're always kind of thinking that something will go wrong. And this can be extremely very subconscious. It can be in our DNA because family patterns do matter. When you look at his family history, there was a lot of huge financial issues. And so what that is all about is maybe he came here to start to break down some of those DNA patterns, whether consciously or subconsciously, and start to, again, we're always trying to ascend and grow from these experiences and to become more conscious. And so this mistrust in the flow can be a real disconnection to God or source and your belief in God. So what this has meant for him to try to overcome in this life is it's all about being able for him to radiate his spirit and creativity and pouring forth of his self. I think he did a pretty good job of this. I mean, I believe he remained an atheist, and when I channeled, that was the sense that I got directly from him. Is yes, he did not. When you're raised with religious beliefs, and believe me, I have no judgment about that, because that's everybody's experience as to choose for themselves. But it can create a lot of, depending on the type of viewpoints that the religious, whatever you are raised in, those beliefs, you may have some inner struggle with that. And so, as I said before, he chose this negative aspect, karma, to have these opportunities to kind of show him. And again, it's not a punishment. It's all about, you're given these experiences. We're the ones who assign good or bad to everything, in this duality world, but it's our best opportunities for growth. So again, stuckness can happen here as to overcome this lack and mistrust, and that would continue to play with throughout his life. And I believe it did in his health, although he handled that very, very well, which was such a good inspiration for other people, either suffering with that particular disease or other people in similar situations. So again, it shows what you can accomplish no matter what experiences have come into your life, that can be overcome. And so he chose as his talents was to have 5s in his talents and 5s in his goals, which makes him, he was a dominant 5 vibration and a dominant 3. And so those dominant vibrations would play out probably the most for him. And 5s are these great pioneer energies, extremely creative, a wonderful talent to have, but they can be a little bit soft because they're very spiritual energies, because it's all about, see, this symbol is the fetus, and it's all about coming into the physical world from the abstract. So it's very intangible, coming into the tangible. And so it doesn't surprise me when I see these 5/5s in goals and 5/5s here in his talents. He was dealing and wanted to deal with a lot of the intangibles, but in more of that science perspective than the spiritual, because again, he has this disconnect from source. And we'll talk about this 6s and karmas in a minute, which adds another component to this disconnection to God. And so his focus was really about taking all of those intangible ideas. And so when he started learning about his science background and that physicist, which is totally more, I'm much more logically based as far as numbers and mathematics. In my world, I'm an accountant, which is a different kind of it's not so intangible as black holes and things we can't see. And so that's why, we're having this great solar eclipse. And this was somebody who really studied this and wanted to learn it. And it was a little bit interesting that he chose these to offset this disconnection from God. And I find that very fascinating. But one of the messages, as I will say now, that he wanted everybody to really understand is to always reach for the stars. Nothing, you're your own worst enemy. You're your own worst person for not accomplishing what you came here to accomplish, or what setting limits, too many limits for yourself is what he's saying, is that we all make excuses. Oh, I can't do this because of this, and I can't do this because of that. And he's challenging you to look farther ahead, to look. He was very much, these fives, again, are pioneer energies. They're very intuitive, stepping out into your truth. And he, you know, taking a firm stance on your beliefs, which he did. As you can see, he cared very much about people and the climate, and he really was outspoken about those things, and that was a wonderful aspect for him to have. The goals are here. He was to come into a teaching and expressive role, and that would be, because these are softer energies, would always be challenged by this 4, which was creating this mistrust in the flow, a lack of health. It was creating kind of this lack for him, but he was meant to overcome that, and he did, in my opinion, handle his illness and did move through that, and was still able to acquire much success. And the 5s also gives you this energy of speeding things up too. As you learn, it kind of, the 4s come with, you learn something as somebody has taught it to you exactly as they learned it, but the 5s can get you to break out of that mold a little bit, and then it can kind of exponentially add and keep, like he was learning and topping that all the time, learning and grasping and growing. And then he was able to get out of that box, that duplication box, and start to think differently, because that's hard for us as we learn what somebody else has taught us, but to learn and get your own ideas and make your own theories, that's a whole different game. Because as we all know, we get very persecuted for speaking the truth if it doesn't coincide with what we already know. And the 5s make him a very sensitive person. They would make him, as usually people with 5s would get very persecuted as children. I've mentioned this before in other celebrities, where they get persecuted for speaking the truth, because the truth as children for most of us is, and if you have 5s, you just get this extra push to say it, express it through your speech. A lot of kids would probably think it. People with 5s say it, and you know, you can get persecuted and disciplined for that, and then you get shut down a little bit but here we see somebody who is taking a lot of great risks. We'll talk about the 6, because 6 is about not taking risks, and here he did take risks with his theories, put them out there, even though, you know, that's putting you out for ridicule. And that tells me he really was working. These 5s being a dominant number was really playing well for him in his learning and growing his knowledge of all of this science that he was eventually teaching, because that's what this soul destiny is all about. Now let's talk about the spiritual side, the karma. He's got 3s in talent, 7s in his goals, and then a soul destiny of 3. Now these 6s that I was talking about will really make it hard for him to use his will to achieve what he wants. And what all of this is about is starting to use your intuition more than your will, which can be very ego-based, and again can steer you in the wrong direction because it's beliefs you've picked up. So this was set up for him to overcome using his will. And obviously this illness took a lot of that will away from him. This may have been pre-designed prior to his incarnation. So again, it was all about him to start using his intuition to achieve what he wants. And again, this stems from being very disconnected from source, which We never are, whether you call it higher self, the great spirit, we are never connected to source. That is a distortion of our ego. We never are disconnected. We may think we feel that way, but it is not the truth. That is fear, which is served by the ego. So we always have to be aware of those thoughts and what's coming into our mind. And so with that, he wants to say, so again, it's all about thoughts. Look at what you have, not what you don't. Now, here was somebody who had a very debilitating disease, and he continued to step forward and step forward. And I read one of Eckhart Tolle's book, I believe it was A New Earth, that talked about, he actually worked at the same university, I believe, that Stephen Hawking did. And I apologize if I get the story. It's been a while since I read it, if I get the details a little bit incorrectly. But the one thing that I do remember is that Eckhart remembers holding the door for Stephen. He was already in his wheelchair, and he remembers looking into his eyes and seeing a complete surrender. And he says that is somebody, because Stephen Hawking was a very positive person. If you've ever heard his lectures or listened to him, very, very positive. And this was somebody, he said, who was surrendered to what is. And so this was another message he had gave me. It was surrender to what is, go with the flow. And what Eckhart was trying to say is, by surrendering and being in the present moment, not over identifying with his illness and coming through with this poor me pity. The ego loves to play on that. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have great compassion for ourselves if we have a debilitating disease or illness or injury, and empathy for ourselves, but there is a difference between over-identifying with it and keeping us stuck. And this was something he did a great job, and I think Eckhart recognized in him as well, that he had succumbed to the surrender of it. He didn't over-identify with it. He didn't stop him from reaching farther and higher and faster. It didn't stop him at all, according to what I can see. So the sixes is all about, it can be isolation energies. He could have been struggled with a lot, too many projects going on at once, and because it's all about learning how to focus and set your goals appropriately. And but it's also having this in the karmic aspects makes it very hard for people to take that leap from science-based to spiritual-based. And this is where that comes in again, that disconnection that he was feeling from a cerebral level from God. Because it was very tough for him to take on risks, to delve into that spiritual side and to take on any of those beliefs because of his mistrust from the fours, and then his other disconnection here coming through on the sixes. He had great talents though, the spiritual talents here, which is the threes, which is a master number, and threes are all about communication, bringing from the depths of this labyrinth all of the emotions that you are feeling and bringing those out and expressing them. It's meant to make you a very initiative, great leader and a teacher. But the threes have a lot of, it's a double number as well, and it's called poverty to wealth. And again, I've talked about this because in Soul Destiny and Spiritual Talents, he's a dominant three, and this can bring in some of the negative aspects as what we would call negative. And so that would be tied to this poverty to wealth, which is your inner reality and your self-worth. And so there was some manifestation here, obviously, of poverty in a health aspect. So that, again, he's got that playing out in this chart pretty strongly, this lack in the trust and flow of abundance. So he had a lack of physical health abundance here, disconnect from God here, and that energy there. And then now this poverty to wealth. So he was meant to really work on that in this life, that self-worth. And we'll talk about his goals were really about, this is, the sevens are all about heart healing, opening the heart to draw people to you so that you, it's kind of a teaching. It's a very great intellectual minds, very objective in their expression, but it's about magnetically drawing them to you, to draw people together, because people together coming to conclusions or just makes a bigger piece of the whole. So it's healing the heart and unifying people. And it's, for him, it was really about coming out of hiding, even with his illness, and expressing his true self. And again, this was extremely in goals. It's about being very intellectual and logical, but it's about facilitating groups, teaching groups, which he was a teacher, because his soul destiny was all about becoming a teacher, teaching what he knew, and he was doing that. So there's no doubt that he gave himself all of these challenges, but in the end, that was really what he came here to do, was to become a teacher. It's what he's known, whether it was not, it's never just about this lifetime, it's things that you've gained through all of your other lives as well. So I think he did just a fantastic job with that. And the other, I'm kind of keep this short because I was kind of doing this last minute and I didn't want to get too much into each of the numbers. So I just wanted to highlight a little bit about each one to make sure that we bring in some more messages from him, since he really wanted to come through on this solar eclipse night. It's going to come in the morning. I did look it up online, and I'm in Central Standard Time here. And so I think it starts around like 5:15 in the morning, and by 5:52 Central Standard Time will be the full eclipse. I plan to try to watch the whole thing. So I'm going to get up early tomorrow, make sure that I get out there and watch it, and hopefully he'll be there. Call him in and he'll watch it with you and give you some insights. That would be great fun. So the last message that he had, I always ask for the 4 creative writing messages. So the last of the 4 was make your new beginnings, leave the past in the past. And again, this is trying to move out of that, any stuckness that you're feeling, letting go of past situations, not dwelling on them, and looking to the future. And this doesn't mean not too far in the future, because that can cause a lot of anxiety for people. It's about being in that present moment, planning your future, but always being aware of where you're at in the present moment, not thinking about anything bad that has happened in the past. So he wasn't just in the moment thinking about, oh, my illness. He was always enjoying another day was a gift to him, enjoying that day, and continuing to work forwards in the present moment on what he wanted to accomplish. And I think he did a bang up job of that. I appreciate so much him coming forward. And there is another reading that I do want to do on Lou Gehrigs disease. And this is from Messages from the Body. And it's the emotional side to a physical manifestation of illness. And I work on this through I'm a divine healing practitioner. And we use the subconscious ego programming, because there's many emotional sides to a physical manifestation. And once we can become conscious of them, it is super helpful in us. And many people have healed themselves through this modality, and has greatly improved their lives and has gotten them out of feeling very stuck. And so I wanted to read, again, this was, I'm going to, hang on, go back out and stop sharing my screen so I can hold up this book and show it to you. It's called Messages from the Body. It's by Michael Lincoln, PhD. And I want to read about Lou Gehrigs Disease, because when I read about his family, this makes a little bit of sense to me. It says the people who have Lou Gehrigs disease are experiencing severe annihilation anxiety around the issue of seeking, manifesting, and especially acknowledging success. They have the utter conviction that they don't have any worth whatsoever. And again, those threes are all about self-worth. Fours are about trusting in the flow of abundance. Sixes are about connection to God. They deny their success and they are totally unwilling to accept their self-worth. They are in effect completely immobilized by betrayal avoidance, in that their family and the mother in particular conveyed to them very clearly that any form of self-manifestation, success in the world, and commitment elsewhere would destroy their family. This sounds like a very ancestral DNA patterning that was going on. And obviously I'm not blaming his mother. This is never done on purpose. This is a patterning. It's a subconscious ego programs that play out from generation to generation. These are taught. And so that's why we see physical manifestations of these, because we want to raise the consciousness so that people can break these patterns. It says here that it got started at a time when there was, in their experience, no difference between their mother and the universe. So that in effect, if they seek success or if they recognize their worth, they would be destroying God and all its creation. It's such a very subconscious program. So to avoid that ultimate calamity, they sacrifice themselves in this way. So I thought that was very interesting about ancestral patterning, because that is part of this solar eclipse new beginnings, is to start to recognize the patternings that you have been taking on from your parents, guardians, past lives, although a lot of people, we don't remember those, but other family members. And if you can see those patterns play out, talk to your parents, your grandparents, and maybe there's some patterns playing out that you can effectively break. And this is a very good time to do that. It's a good time tomorrow as well to set an intention for those changes to take place. I want to, he's directed me to the sacred geometry deck, and he would like to pull a card out, and one popped out right away, that it's called number 26, empowerment. And the frequency of empowerment supports our ability to show up fully and completely, uniting us with others in the deep trust that we are all connected through the same source. Now that he's on the other side, he understands the connection to the whole. And I don't know that I don't want to put words in his mouth. So what he's saying now is show up fully, connect, be in the present moment, connecting, uniting with others, which as long as it's positive, healthy beliefs, and carry forward that deep trust that we are all connected to the same source. So bringing that unifying, he would like to bring in the unifying consciousness, energies of empowerment. That is true empowerment. The next we're going to do is an animal oracle. Colette Baron-Reid's deck. And I'm sorry that Sacred Geometry was from Lon. I love that. I'm also a very mathematical person, and I work with Archangel Metatron, who is all about the sacred geometry, and I use that in my counseling and practice as well. So we have number 32, Hawk Spirit. Let spirit be your guide. So that is what Stephen Hawking is saying. Hope you caught that. Let spirit be your guide. And spirit is, let's talk about that. Spirit, I love this. This is that green. It's all about the heart chakra. We talked about the sevens with the heart healing. Let spirit be your guide. So what does that mean? Those intuitions, those thoughts that come in your mind that are, and be very discerning about that are positive, that are, I get my best inspirations when I'm jogging, when I'm meditating, when I'm clearing my mind and I'm kind of draining away any of that negative energy I picked up from the day. And then I will get these great ideas for creative ideas for their work or for my spiritual business here. And that's really what he's saying is let spirit be your guide. Listen to those intuitive expressions. So the next deck that I'm drawn to is the Sacred Destiny Oracle by Denise Linn. See what Stephen has to say for everybody. Delight. And see, there's another bird. This is the second bird we've had. And we've had the number 5 here, which was his dominant vibration. 32, sorry, which adds up to 5, which was his dominant vibration. And which is a very spiritual number. So delight, and I am going to go to the book and read this, but look at that, another bird. And he says he is like a bird now. He can fly wherever. He is free. When he came to me, he was doing this jig. It was hilarious because he wants people to know that you don't carry those afflictions that you manifest here when you go back to source on the other side. Then you become, you still work on your lessons and you become guides for others and come through channelers. And I'm sure a lot of people will be skeptical since he was an atheist, but I know better than that. I know that the numbers drive those energies when they're here. And he has, and there's all these little, those more birds in the background. Everybody see this great group flying together, this flock, and then all the beautiful flowers, just gorgeous. I'm going to read this to you, this particular one, since that's what he would like. I usually let them decide if I should read or if we're just interpreting the card as is. So sparrows in spring grass. The sparrow gains its power from its numbers. Yeah. In clusters, sparrows eat and forage, and predators are distracted and deterred, even intimidated by their numbers. Security and joy in numbers is a lesson of the sparrow. Within their community, sparrows are always busy, living life fully. Many cultures align the meeting of the sparrow with joy. And in the Middle Ages, the sparrow was thought to relieve suffering, help one triumph over hardship, and bring joy. And he is so much joy to get. I just feel so joyful during this whole session with him here. He just exudes such love and warmth and kind of this real humorous side, which I really relate to. So he wants you to know delight is expanding in your life. Clap your hands with glee, spend time with others, go to a community gathering, host a party. The joy you experience will give birth to immense creativity and your life will blossom. Share your happiness and elation with others and it will grow by leaps and bounds. This isn't the time to be serious or buckle down and get to work. This is the time to be spontaneous and madcap. Do not make any hard and fast commitments right now. Don't sign any legal documents or make any pledges right now. We are in the Mercury retrograde. That's wonderful advice. Don't make any promises or you might not be able to keep them. Give yourself permission to have fun, lots of fun, especially in the community with others. Thank you, Stephen, for that message. That was so on point with all of the energies that are going on. And so he does want me to go to this Caroline Miss, the archetype cards, and talk about there's a light aspect and a dark. And we're going to focus on both of these aspects. And what popped out here was the athlete. Okay, somebody in great athletic condition, dedication to transcending physical limits, including handicaps, development of personal willpower and strength of spirit. And that is the positive side of the athlete. He was absolutely an athlete in my mind. I'm sure he is in your mind, and how appropriate for this card to come out. I'm going to read that again. This is the light side of the athlete. Dedication to transcending physical limits, including handicaps, development of personal willpower and strength of spirit. I have such goosebumps. I'm going to just show that to you, but we're going to talk a little bit here now about the shadow side, things that ego, starts to fuss with us. And so it's a misuse of athletic ability for selfish ends, false sense of invulnerability and entitlement. So those are the things to guard against. If you're misusing an ability that you have for selfish reasons, not for the greater good, things look at those thoughts again that are playing out. And so it kind of gives you a false sense of entitlement. You see this in people who at high levels cheat, and they come across as having this great sense of entitlement that, well, everyone was doing it and things like that. And he just wants to bring this out into the collective. What a wonderful, because he did dedicate to transcending those physical limits and did an excellent job while he was here. So kudos, Stephen. So we're going to do one more card. And it's the work your light. So let's work our light, everybody. Through the solar eclipse, set those intentions. You can do it even after. It doesn't have to be before, because it lasts a few days. And I have this wonderful card, Anna, grandmother of Jesus, seeding the light, laying foundations, divine plan. It's time to put that divine plan in play, everybody. Laying your foundations. It's a perfect time for new beginnings, seeding the light. I have an Anna who was my paternal grandmother, and my maternal grandmother was Lorraine Ann. I have a lot of Annas. I love that. So I love this card. It just speaks to me, and I love this. You can see the Sphinx is in there. And so it's the wonders of the world, seeding your light, getting out there, expanding. Lots of people by the water, castles, pyramids, the world in the background, the stars. This is just transcending many, many things. I'm going to look and see what I'm drawn to. Grandmother of Jesus energy. Wonderful way to end this reading prior to the solar eclipse. Anna, grandmother of Jesus, was an ancient mystic who dedicated her life to laying the foundations for Christ consciousness to be woven through all of life. She is not widely known, but without her Christ consciousness would not be rising as it is today. Anna represents the quiet dedication that is sometimes required to live a life of service. She represents the generations that came before that devoted their lives to dreaming a new world into being while knowing that they would not see the glorious end results. She represents the dutiful soldier, the unconditional mother, and the mystic who can see the thread that is woven all through life. And it teaches us that we all have a part to play in the divine plan. It doesn't have to be on the world stage to be significant. One person's part is not worthier than another. One person's part may be to mother their children, another's may be to gather one woman in circle each month. No part is better or worse, more important or less significant. We each have within us a seed of light that we incarnated to share. Anna is gathering us all to remember and surrender to our part of the plan. Thank you, Anna. And thank you, Stephen, for bringing that forward. Much appreciated. And I think that sets the stage for that new beginning that's going to take place. So let's all do our light and think positively, set our intentions well. Thank you for stopping by, and thank Stephen so much for being here and for pushing me to do this quick video for you guys. If you're interested more, I'll always put like the cards and everything in the description box below and my website. Please subscribe and like. I like to put out more material for everybody with that kind of follows the energies that are playing out. Although these messages are timeless. It's not the solar eclipse makes it a little more specific to the new beginnings, but we can all have new beginnings. It doesn't have to just be the solar eclipse. I just feel this is a time where that spiritual new beginnings is rising on the planet, and I can feel it. I hope you can too. Thank you for being here. I wish you much love. Take care, and bye-bye for now.